Hello and welcome to another episode of Brave TV. I'm Jennifer Marshall. I'm your host, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of This Is My Brave, and we are so glad you're here. Let's start my video. So today's episode, we're talking about the importance of pets and mental health. And the main concept of our Brave TV is to bring stories of hope to the homes of our audience during the COVID pandemic. Each week, we will cover different topics that our own Brave alumni can lend their expertise on. This gives our alumni an opportunity to share their stories on another platform, talk about their journey with This Is My Brave, and also offer support and resources to viewers who may be having similar struggles, especially during such a high stress time as what we're going through right now. This week's theme, as I mentioned, is the importance of pets during COVID-19. There is a distinct relationship between animals and mental health. Your pets don't have to be certified support or therapy animals to make a difference in your life. Research shows that being around animals can lower our stress levels, make us feel needed, increase our self-esteem and well-being, and ground us in the present moment, among many other benefits. Our guests today will lend their stories of how pets have helped them with their mental health, along with the important role they have been playing during the COVID-19 pandemic. So without further ado, let's get started. I have to mention we had planned on having our first guest as Jeff Fink and his dog Earl, and Jeff has started a nonprofit called Go Fetch Wellness, with the mission to address mental health in communities by utilizing the human-animal connection to educate, influence treatment, and engage people in meaningful conversations. Unfortunately, Jeff and Earl were not able to be with us. Earl recently underwent major surgery and he's recovering, and so they're spending time together, resting and getting well. So we're wishing them all the best and all our love and support. And we hope to have Jeff and his dog Earl on another future episode of Brave TV. So for our first guest today, we have Nita Sweeney. And Nita is joining us. So hi, Nita. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing really well. Really glad to be here.
Oh, it's so good to have you. So why don't you give everybody an intro? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're zooming in from, and how you got to know This Is My Brave.
So I'm in Columbus, Ohio, right in the middle of Ohio. And I love the story of how really This Is My Brave found me. I published a book through Mango Publishing in May of 2019, and my husband, Ed, he's my promo guy. And so he created this amazing bookmark, and we put them all over town. We put them on bulletin boards, we put them, wherever we could find a place that it was legal to put a bookmark. And so we put them at Witt's Custard in Clintonville. They have a bookmark right outside the store. And I got a call one day from the woman who was leading the Columbus This Is My Brave show. And she said, I saw your bookmark at Witt's Custard. And I thought, oh, that's crazy. And so she, was interested in the book, but she was interested in my story and asking me to share with This Is My Brave. So I did. And it was really life-changing. I've been someone who teaches, speaks publicly, does all kinds of promotional things, but the This Is My Brave experience was very different because it's so personal. I chose a different angle. I chose to talk about my husband, who his hashtag on Twitter is the 100% good husband, because he's everything with me. And so I chose to share a moment about our lives together when he, just to show how my mental health situation impacted him. It was just a little different angle from what I might ordinarily talk about. So yeah, and so being in the show, meeting other people, it creates a peer support group, which I'd kind of had that, but to do it so publicly and to be supported by other people who become mental health advocates, to have that team has really, it just opened doors and given me support that I didn't have in other ways, even though I have really good mental health care.
I love it. Was I hadn't heard the custard story. Was it Natalie or Was it Karen or
It
you?
was Karen. Yeah, Karen Pickett. Yeah, yeah,
Ah, great. Well, I'm glad
yeah.
Karen found you that way. And your story had me in tears about how Ed had supported you. And it's a beautiful story. We're going to link the performance in our notes as we are talking here so everyone can check out your performance video. So I want to know, I guess, did participating in the show help you in your recovery? I mean, you were further along in your recovery. Sometimes we have folks who are a little newer in their recovery participate, but tell us about what it meant to you to do that, to take that step and be so public on a stage.
Well, since it was about Ed too, that was a little different for me because I had talked a lot about my struggles. And I mean, I wrote a book about, you know,
Mhm.
that's my Under the Couch to Marathon story. But he's in the book, but um, it wasn't as raw. I mean, that's the thing. The stories, when you tell a story for This Is My Brave, it's not about, I mean, you shape it, of course, because you want it to be a powerful story, but it's so open. So raw is just the only word I can really think of. And so, yeah, it took me to a new level. It
Mhm.
definitely took me to a new level. Um, it was one of the scariest things I think I've done. I've done a lot of things, and it was good. That was good because I think we just have to keep stepping up, stepping up, stepping up. And it gave me a forum to step up in a new way, both the performance, but also, you know, now I'm a This Is My Brave alum, and that's a team. That's we have our team, and that's just amazing. So I still connected with many of the people that we did the Columbus show with. We, you know, kind of cheer each other on and talk once in a while. And it's
Love
so
it.
yes, it definitely furthered my recovery, almost like in a different way. I'd been down one path, and that it took it a new, very positive direction.
Well, I think as those of us who go through mental health challenges in our life, and I firmly believe that everyone will have a time in their life when they face a mental health struggle. But I think those of us who go through it, we have so many different aspects of that story. You know, right? You've got those who supported you, you've got your own um, journey through hospitalization sometimes, or, you know, severe lows or severe highs. And so we can talk about that. We can talk about, you know, the advocacy side of it. There's just so many different facets to it. So I love that you chose a little bit different of a path on stage when, and you also got to promote the book a little bit too. And we'll talk a little more about that in a bit. But I'm curious to know, as you wrote the piece, did you share with Ed along the way as you were writing, or just was at the show his first time hearing it, or?
Oh, I share everything with Ed. He is my first reader pretty much for everything, and sometimes the second reader, the third reading. One of my favorite stories is, so he read every version of Depression Hates a Moving Target, every single version. And then when my author copies came, I came home one day, he's sitting on the couch with an author copy, reading it from the beginning again.
Oh my.
So yeah, so I definitely shared it with him. Um, Also because I wanted to, you know, I was kind of revealing something about him. It talks about his emotional reaction. And I wanted to be very respectful on such a public stage that I wasn't saying anything that he didn't feel comfortable hearing.
Mm-hmm.
We just had that kind of relationship where I didn't want to spring anything on him. And it was, you know, it was it was showed his um, stoic but very emotional reaction. So yes, he read it several times, both all the drafts.
Good. It's good that he was so involved. I love that. And um, let's see what else I want to ask. I actually do kind of want to ask about him a little bit too, because during the when the pandemic hit, really in March, you guys went through, uh, you know, a very difficult time in completely separate from the pandemic. So could you share a little bit?
Yes, I was on book tour. He went with me to San Francisco. I had 5 readings in 3 days in the Bay Area, and he flew to Los Angeles to be with his mother. But the first night when he was in the hotel with me before he left for Los Angeles, um, he'd had he'd felt a little chilled, and he had teeth chatter and chills. So the long story of it is, it turned out he had pneumonia,
Mm.
and we didn't know this, but when I flew to Los Angeles with him to meet him, that night before we went home, he had a heart attack in the hospital. We didn't know that. It was a silent heart attack. And then the
Mm.
next day we flew home, and went right to the ER. And he was in the hospital for, I think, 6 days then. They diagnosed triple vessel disease, scheduled him for open heart surgery, but he still had pneumonia. So they sent him home for 3 weeks. And then on March the 13th, he had open heart surgery, and they were able to do 2 of the 3, bypass 2 of the vessels. But when he was ventilated, it happened sometimes. When he came off the ventilator, he couldn't swallow. So then he was on a gastric feeding tube. He was in the hospital 2 more weeks. He came home March the 26th, and he was on a feeding tube 24 hours a day until, I think it's been about 2 weeks now. And he's made an amazing recovery. When he couldn't come home, when he came home, he couldn't stand without holding on to a walker, couldn't get out of a chair. And he's outside, digging something up right now. So he's just made an amazing recovery. He's, completely eating all his meals, swallowing all his pills, everything. So I had, for a while on Twitter, I had a new hashtag, accidental home health aid, because we didn't expect that at all. Even when he came home, we didn't know. So yeah, he's been my rock, and we had our world shaken. So we're I would say we're about 6 weeks behind everybody else in the whole pandemic thing, because we were in this little bubble where we're so focused on taking care of him and trying to help him get well. But, as he's gotten better, we kind of look around and go, oh, wait a minute, we can't go anywhere. So it's been a little different for us, but he's doing really well. So thank you so much for asking.
Good. Well, you had us worried for a bit. Ed had us worried, and we were just sending our support, and because we were in one of the Brave Circle meetings, our support group meetings we did at early stages of the pandemic, and I just was praying for you guys. So I'm so glad to hear he made a full recovery and he's doing well. So awesome.
Thanks.
Well, Nita, thank you so much for your intro. I'm going to put you, have you go backstage. This is our backstage area with the photos. And I'm going to bring in our second guest, Marie Avilez. Yeah. And Marie is joining us. So Marie, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for taking the time to be on Brave TV with us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here, especially since the recording of my show wasn't able to go live. I'm excited to be part of This Is My Brave in this way.
That's so cool. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but tell us about where you're zooming in from and how you first got involved with This Is My Brave.
I'm zooming in from Virginia. I'm a teacher in Virginia. I got involved in This Is My Brave in 2016 in the DC show. I had found This Is My Brave at a time that was really difficult for me. I had just moved to the DC area and was lonely. My family is from Arizona, and I was just really going through very severe depression. When I found This Is My Brave, I just took a lot of comfort in finding the videos and realizing that I was not alone in everything.
Did you just stumble across the videos?
I did. It came up on Facebook.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I just stumbled upon it. And I was like, I wonder if I could just write something.
Yeah.
Like try to get my feelings out and write. Because I had never communicated anything about my mental health other than to my therapist and to my mom.
Okay.
And so I started writing, and my piece was really about embracing my identity as someone with a mental illness, as someone with a disability, and how having a service dog really kind of put that label of disabled on me. And it was something that I needed, but it was something that I definitely struggled with, being so out there. So This Is My Brave really was the first time where I told my story in any way other than, like I said, to my mom or my therapist, which was great.
And it was I'm so sad that your show didn't get taped. We had an unfortunate technical error with our videographer, and we weren't able to get the video uploaded to YouTube. But you have the memories, you have the connections with your cast members from that experience. And tell us, like, did it help you in your recovery? Like, how did it impact you?
It did. This Is My Brave, like, our cast really became a family to me. I had friends that would meet me. One friend who lives in the neighborhood, and she would meet me at my school and walk home with me. And it really just provided that comfort and support that I really, really desperately needed at that time.
I'm so glad to hear it. And so tell us a little bit about Livy and how she's doing today. She's with you, isn't she? I knew she was on your lap.
um, I got Livy when I was in college. And, you know, I had had anxiety for a long time, but in college, it wasn't until I got treatment for my depression that I got Livy. I had been having since high school these like shaking episodes that everyone thought were seizures. I was being treated for epilepsy. Nothing was working. No medications were working. Nothing. And it kind of just was something that I got used to. I was having these seizure-like episodes at least 4 times a week. And then when I became very depressed and I decided to get Livy, which also I grew up terrified of dogs, so it was not like me to decide to get Livy. But when I decided to get Livy, before I even had her trained as a service dog, my anxiety she helped me so much. The shaking episodes stopped. I still occasionally have them, but it was nothing like it was before. And it was really just her presence at that time that was really helping me.
Was she a rescue?
She was a rescue.
Oh.
And then I trained her to be a service dog, and she worked for a few years for me. And then last April, I decided to retire her. She had gone through some mistreatment in my workplace, and it really traumatized her. And so I decided to retire her, and I got my new service dog, Milo, who's over here with me.
Hi, Milo.
Really just like a giant ball of fluff.
Oh, he's so cute. He looks sleepy. Did he have some exercise this morning that wore him out?
No, he's just a lump.
And you said he's like 1.5?
He's 1.5 years, and he gets a lot more excited at night. He goes crazy playing with all his toys at night.
And so he's trained already now, or
so he's been in training since he was born. He was bred by service dog trainers, and so he's been in training with them, and he was born last December. And so after being with the breeders and going through training with them, he actually lived with my parents because I was still living in DC, and I just wasn't able to handle starting to train him at all. And so my dad actually took on a lot of his training from the beginning. And then in June, when I brought him back with Nita, Virginia, I started doing more of the task training with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and shoot, I was going to ask you something about I should mention, actually, people probably notice we're doing a different format this time around with BraveTV. And so if anyone has questions while we're chatting, they're free to add them into the chat, and we will be chatting with you live during the broadcast. So we're doing this pre-taping and live broadcast. So I'm excited to see if anyone has any questions about getting a service animal and training. And so maybe you could help address those when we get to that point during the live broadcast. So, okay, what else? And you had an update too, since being in This Is My Brave, you're engaged?
I am engaged.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you. My fiance is David, and he is amazing. Sorry.
How'd you meet? How did you meet?
We met online.
Okay.
And he is so supportive of me, and everything that I need. When I told him, I was like, I think I'm getting another dog. He was like, okay. But he just goes with it and provides everything that I need.
Awesome.
For my mental health. He's very supportive of that.
That's awesome that you found a partner. And your wedding, did it get affected by the pandemic? Like what? Tell us.
It hasn't been affected yet. It's next March. But some of the planning has been harder. We aren't able to go to Arizona. We're getting married in Arizona, and we picked the venue, but we aren't able to go there and see it in person. I was planning on wearing my mom's dress, and now that can't happen because I can't go out there to get it. But we'll
you're
see.
adjusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're adjusting well. Well, we'll get more into that when we get into our full discussion. So thank you so much again for being with us, Marie. I'm so glad you're here. So let's bring everybody in. As people probably noticed, Katie's with us this weekend for Brave TV. Katie has been with us every weekend since we launched Brave TV. And I'm so grateful that you get a chance to be on screen and talk a little bit about your animals too. Katie, will you fill us in?
Yeah, and I just want you guys to know that they have been silent since we started, and now they are running in. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm Katie. I'm a program manager for This Is My Brave, and I live with post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression, and I've always been a dog lover. I grew up with dogs and everything. So I was robbed at gunpoint, which is what my PTSD is from. And after that happened, I kind of had this like ripple effect of stress and anxiety and depression and things. And I actually, in 2011, I got shingles, and I was so upset, and I was like, I'm too young for this. This shouldn't be happening. And my sister-in-law was pregnant at the time with my niece, and I used to spend a lot of time with my brother and sister-in-law, and I couldn't be around them because I had shingles. And so they got me Tila, my Chihuahua, and she was the best gift I've ever gotten. She is my little baby. She'll be 9 at the end of this month. And like when I first got her, she would go to therapy with me. She would go everywhere with me because she was small enough I could put her in my bag and no one knew she was there. But it was just, she was a huge comfort to me, just my little buddy. And something I realized was having something else to take care of was hugely beneficial for me, because it wasn't just me. At the time I was like drinking a lot and numbing my pain and things like that. So, oh, there's Olive.
And when did you get Olive?
Oh, Olive. I got her in August of 2018. She's bad. She's sitting in the window right now barking. I had another dog, Scout. After I got Tila, I got Scout, and then Scout was a total rescue, and she was older than I had thought, and she got really sick. And I ended up having to put her down, which was really sad. And then I got Olive a couple months later because Tila was really lonely. So now we're one happy family. And the picture of the 3 of us that's been on the screen was the day that I got Olive, and you can just see the disgust in Tila's face.
I think that's always a challenge, right?
Yeah, she's like, I don't want that one.
Yeah. So I have cats. I'm the oddball out here. We have a brother-sister pair, Finnegan and Gracie, and we got them. They were rescues. We got them at 5 weeks old and 5 or 6 weeks old. We didn't know exactly how old they were, but we took them in as fosters. We had been fostering cats for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months, and we'd have a little one, a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old cat for a month, and then they would go up for adoption. They'd always get adopted, and the kids loved having the animals around, but they wanted little kittens, and so finally one weekend we went in to pick up our new foster cats, and the vet goes, I got some itty bitty ones for you. And I was like, oh yay. And we go in, and literally you could hold them in the cup of your hand, like they were so tiny. And they've just grown on us so much. We knew we weren't going to let those 2 go. And when the pandemic hit, they definitely knew something was up. I mean, my anxiety was really high at the beginning of this pandemic, and I would be working at my computer and kind of shaking, with the anxiety, and one of them would come and sit on my lap and just purr. And so they just have this sense about them that they help us, right? I mean, it's pretty incredible. So I have some questions. Let's go through and see what we were thinking of chatting about. Who wants to start in terms of talking about both the mental benefits of having an animal around, and also the physical benefits?
Can start.
Okay.
So when I got Livy, like I said, it was like night and day difference. And one of the things that was different was at that time, like I wasn't even getting out of bed. I wasn't going to my classes. I was making up all these reasons for why I couldn't go to class. It just wasn't happening. And when I got Livy, it wasn't just my anxiety that got a lot better. It was like I had to get up. I have to take her out to the bathroom. I have to feed her. I have to take care of her. And I think aside from just caring for a living being, it's also that structure that animals need that I needed. And that definitely made a big difference in my depression and in my anxiety.
That's awesome. I agree. Taking care of someone else, whether it's an animal or a person, can really change things. Nita, what about can you talk about those physical benefits? Because you wrote a book about it.
Actually, I can talk about both the emotional and the physical benefits. Yes. So
and this is Gracie, by the way.
What?
This is Gracie.
Oh, yes. Yes, she's gorgeous.
Thanks.
Yeah. I saw her sneak up. I love on Zoom so many times you're in the middle of a call and somebody's cat will crawl across.
Yes.
I just love that, or behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had dogs when I was a kid, but hadn't had any till I don't know, later in my in my 30s. I got dogs again, and I had Morgan. Ed and I had gotten him after a previous dog had died, and then I went through a whole period. I won't go through the whole story. It's all in the book, where things got really, really bad. And I have bipolar 2, so most of the time when I'm presenting symptoms, they look like depression. They look just like chronic, recurrent, severe depression, which was my diagnosis for many years. And then once in a while, the mania will hit. And so I had gone through a period of what I now believe is a hypomanic episode, or some, might have been actual mania. And then I crashed again. And that's kind of where the book starts. I was stuck on the sofa, just could not move. And I had seen a social media post. One of my friends said, "Call me crazy, but this running is getting to be fun." And I thought, she's got to be joking. But she wasn't. So some time passed. I kept watching her posts, looking at eventually I opened the training schedule. But I was too embarrassed to go outside and try to jog for 60 seconds, which is what the training plan said, by myself. And so I thought, okay, I'll leash up the dog. And then the neighbors, who weren't home anyway, we got a little paranoia going on there too. I mean, actual diagnosed paranoia, I'm not joking. The neighbors would think I'm just exercising the dog. So it's legit. So what happened was, as I went through this training plan, not only did I start to lose weight and feel better, the dog started to lose weight and feel better. So it was like this symbiotic relationship. It was very positive. And he just became my training buddy. And I took him, there are even some races where you can take your dog, and he was fit enough to do that. So yeah, it really brought me out of my shell in another way. I mean, he was an excuse to begin with, but then anytime I would run without him, if a neighbor was in the yard when it was like a Saturday and people were actually home, somebody would say, "Well, where's Morgan? Where's Morgan?" And the postman got in on it. He's a runner too, which who knew? He'd been our postman for like 10 years. And so he would give Morgan biscuits, and it was kind of a whole thing. But
Nita, I have to ask, was the training program your friend was doing, was it by chance the Couch to 5K?
Yes,
Okay.
it's the one everybody talks about. I didn't mention it in the book. I didn't mention it by name because there's so many training plans, and it really doesn't. It's
That's
just an interval plan. It is good, and now there's an app. So
yes, there's an app, and I've done that one, and we actually are planning a 5K, a virtual 5K. This is my Brave virtual 5K. So we hope everybody will follow along and will join it and do it with us, with your animals too, and get them out, get moving. It's going to be called the Brave the Storm 5K.
Oh, that's fantastic. If that had been promoted before I missed it, I'm sorry, because
we're working on it.
Oh, good.
So
okay, that's great. Oh, I'm all in. That's fantastic.
Yay.
Yeah. The virtual races right now have been really helpful. I need the virtual races, but But yes, my dogs, Morgan, he died in 2017. He was 16
Mm.
and had run thousands of miles with me. And so now we have a new dog, Scarlet.
Mm-hmm.
She's so bad that she has her own hashtag, the 99% good dog. She's just a scoundrel. It's just her personality. I mean, we have trained her, but she just is kind of a scoundrel. Yeah. She's adorable and she's a good runner. So she's my buddy now. But during this pandemic, she's been a source of comic relief because she tends to eat things. And I'll share one little story and then I'll shut up. So when Ed was getting better and started to try to eat, eating was painful for a lot of reasons, and he was starting to try to eat, he kept a very detailed log of what he was eating, how many calories, how much protein, because he had to kind of prove to both the nutrition people and the ENT that he could support himself without the feeding tube. So he had this very detailed diary. So one day he wasn't thinking and he left it sitting on the table and Scarlet ate it. So he had to tell his doctor that his dog ate his homework.
Oh,
yeah. But we just, that's the kind of stuff with her that we just laugh, and that it made it just those kind of moments like that. And just, looking at her, she'll be lying over there someplace, or we call her our foot warmer because she'll come and she'll just like lay right on top of your feet. She has no
that's the best.
And that kind of stuff, that physical touch, the visual of her playing, all of that stuff is just so good for mood and has really carried us through. And he's the one that got her. He went out. He went to a bookstore and came home with a dog. That's in the whole other story. Funny. So she's, she has been by his side when he was healing. And what's going on? What's going on? You can just see the curiosity. So.
That's so good.
Yeah, but
so
she's
good.
just a gem.
Well, so that's one thing I want to ask Marie about a little bit. Like, how do you go about if you're thinking of getting a service animal? What are some resources or are there any websites you'd recommend for people to check out?
So I when I decided to train Livy, I'd had her for almost a year at that point. And I just Googled like service dog trainers in Arizona, which is where I was living. And I found all 4 paws, and they were amazing, and they walked me through it. I am a huge proponent of self-training your service dog, because for me, it's just what was accessible. And also I was just coming from someone who was terrified of dogs before I got one. Like, I really needed support in building that relationship with my dogs. And so that was really good for me. Now I use Helping Hounds, because they do virtual sessions with me. Alex and
That's so cool.
Nita are a great service dog team. And so they're able to do virtual sessions with me and Milo, which has been great, because one of the big stressors in all of this has been, how am I going to keep Milo's training up? And there's still definitely going to be some difficulty when we get back to normal, as far as like what his public access is going to look like. But keeping up with that training with Helping Hounds has been really great for us.
That's awesome. I also want to point out, like adoption, like I had mentioned, my cats were from a rescue. We worked with Wolf Trap Animal Rescue here in the DC metro area. And I know I heard stories, and actually one of my best friends, Kelly, their family did a fostering and then ended up, there's rumors that they might be adopting, and that's going to be their 3rd dog. But, there were stories coming out that a lot of people were fostering during the pandemic because of the benefits. So I think that's a great way to try out an animal and see if it could fit your family, and you're committing to a short amount of time. Like, we had never fostered before when we tried with these guys, and it's just such a nice experience, and they give you all the tools and resources, and you have to do your part in getting them to the vet appointments and whatnot to get them prepared for adoption. But I think a lot of times they call it the foster fail, when you end up falling in love with the pet and keeping it. But so that's something to think about too. I don't know, what else do you guys want to share? Like, what else is important for folks to know about the benefits of animals and mental health?
Well, I'd like to talk about the impact on the pet,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that, again, our situation was a little bit different because we were dealing with Ed's physical health issues, but Scarlett was so aware. And so I could tell that she was a little bit extra stressed. So what happened is I ended up taking her for a few more walks, for, going for a run, trying to support her too. So it's kind of a two-way relationship. And for my mental health, what that did, what this whole situation did, was it showed me, again, that I sometimes can show up at times when I feel like I don't have anything to give. And I'm not talking about, showing up to the point of depletion, but just um, a lot of what my brain tells me is that I'm not able, I'm not capable, I'm not worthy. That's the depressive piece that's constantly running in my head. And to be able to, see, oh, Scarlett's really anxious, let's just take her around the block, and have that awareness. It's just another part of my recovery, part of learning kind of a new skill. So even I really have enjoyed listening to Marie talk about the service animals, because I was very curious about that. And I think there's kind of a spectrum. There's a place where they are actually certified, but there's, especially her story with having had the dog for a while, and then deciding, well, let's make this more official kind of. And for me, it's been much more unofficial, but I still get such benefits both ways. So.
Yeah. Marie, I have to ask, for the wedding, will the dogs get to be there?
Oh, they'll be there.
They'll be at the
They'll be-
ceremony?
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, the animals become part of our family, and that's why our hearts go out to Jeff. We know that they're going through a tough time right now. Major surgery is no joke for anyone or pets, so we hope they're doing okay. And so what else? Any
Well,
other?
can I say
Oh, yes.
something yeah, so to the point that like both Nita and Marie have said of like the of our pets just, being there for us and teaching us different things about ourselves. Um like I'm single and I live alone. So during this time, my dogs have been the most consistent company that I've had. Um and they see me at my best and see me at my worst. And if they could talk, I can only imagine what they would have to say. But one night, a couple of weeks ago, I was having a really bad night and I was having a really bad anxiety attack. And I was just sitting in my bathroom on the floor and I was just crying and crying and crying. And they had been in there with me at first. And then they were probably like, I'm tired and I need to go lay down. And then I got really worked up. And all of a sudden, they both came walking in. Like, not that they were chasing each other. They just both came walking in. Olive, like, jumped on me. And Tila started licking my arm.
Oh.
And it was this immediate grounding moment where I was, like, back in reality of I'm sitting on my bathroom floor. I'm really worked up about something, but they calmed me so much. And I just like grabbed them and hugged them. And then we went to bed and it was exactly what I needed. And then anytime now that, I'm stressed out during the day or whatever, like we've been walking a lot more since the pandemic started. And I mean, I already work from home, so that wasn't a change for me, but just if I'm having a rough minute, then the dogs and I go out and go for a walk. And again, it's like keeping you in the present moment and grounding you. And it's, I don't know what I would do without them. They're the
I
best.
love that story, Katie. I'm so glad they were there for you.
Yeah, it was great. I know I never even told you that.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you shared. And speaking of like resources, other resources too for our folks, we do have, you were talking about grounding. I mean, our workshops on Fridays with John Paris, who's an alumni from our Los Angeles show, he's a therapist out in LA, have been so wonderful and have really helped me better understand the thought processes that go through our heads and how we can train our brains. And so I encourage everyone to check those out. We have I think one more, and then we may see if John can stay with us another month because it's just such great information. But those are available on our YouTube channel. And then also we have that offer with BetterHelp.com. So if folks want to try online therapy, I use BetterHelp. I've used them for 9 or 10 months now, and I think it's a great resource. They match you up with a licensed therapist in your state. And even, you know, when you're going to be at a different location, like I'm looking at living at the beach, my parents' beach house this summer to get a change of scenery, my therapist is able to continue to see me. She did the research on, you know, making sure that she can see me, even though I'm going to be in Delaware. So it's just a good organization, and we're proud to offer a month of free support. So it's betterhelp.com/thisismybrave if anyone wants to try that out. But anything else, you guys? I love to do this last thing, which I don't think we prepped you for, but if we could go around one more time and just say one more thing you want to leave our viewers with in terms of pets and mental health, whether it's a resource or a book or a story. We'll just go around one more time and let you guys give one parting thought. So Marie, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, can I share two things?
Yeah, please.
One thing that for me being around my dogs is they keep me in check. So Milo is trained to have a heart rate alert. So when my heart rate gets too high, he alerts and he brings me down to do deep pressure therapy. Sometimes my anxiety presents itself as like frustration and almost anger, but not really anger. And I'll like just feel very uncomfortable in my body. And I've realized that I can't let it get to that point because it affects the people I live with, it affects my dogs. And so that alert and that deep pressure therapy has really been my lifeline. Like I like to say that Livy is my lifesaver because I didn't know how much I needed her, but Milo now is my lifeline because I can't function without
I love that.
The other thing I wanted to share is that my sister is a mental health professional, and I had the experience of doing a biofeedback test with her. And it's a test that measures how your body responds physically to mental and emotional stress. And so the way it worked was my sister asked me to share a traumatic story, and I talked about it, and you could see like it measured like my sweat and my heart rate and blood pressure and all these other things. And you could see on the screen of her computer that it was just like lines were going crazy. And she brought Livy in the room. And this was also before Livy was trained to be a service dog. So she brought Livy in the room, and it was like, Livy is magic. I don't know how she like it all just kind of leveled back out. So to me, like I really value my service dogs as service dogs, trained and in public, and you know I protect them and all of that. But I also really value them just as pets and as my friends.
That's such a beautiful story. Thank you for
that.
sharing. Nita, what do you have as a parting sentence?
Oh, I just choked up at Marie's story. I'm just like, wow, that's so powerful. When she mentioned biofeedback, one of the things that I've been doing is neurofeedback, and I always tend to choose animal related. So you watch a movie as part of the therapy, and I always tend to watch even children's stories, but things with animals in them all the time, because that's it just that my doctor will say, another animal film? I'm like, yeah. But I'll say that I'm always very cautious because I talk a lot about exercise as medicine, and how, you know, the title of the book is Depression Hates a Moving Target. That I love my dogs, I love running, I love my husband, and I still need other help. And so I'm always very careful, because I never want anybody to think that I'm saying that there's one thing that's going to be the fix, or that exercise is going to be the fix, or even that having a pet is going to be a fix, although they are all tools in my kit. And they are life-saving. I mean, I really believe my whole life has turned around. I can't even explain. how it is turned around by, you know, having a pet in my life and being able to run with my dog. That's really the thing. I don't think I would have done it alone. I wouldn't have.
Mhm.
And so I just always want to throw that in there, that this is part of a kit that I need. Um, and I'm really, I guess I'm just grateful. And I'm so grateful to things like This Is My Brave, because the just getting the word out and having, it's both, you know, promotional, but there's like the not, that's not the right word. It's informational, but it's also this community that you end up with.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm in several Facebook groups for people who run with their dogs too. And then there's also another group that's like people who have mental health issues that run with their dogs. So it's like this, you know, and so the sense of community, because that's what I needed. I was really isolated. My disease isolated me. I didn't need to be isolated, but my mind isolated me. And I too practice mindfulness and noticed that you were doing those things on Friday. So I guess that's my parting thought, is that this is, you know, build a big toolkit, because
Yes.
on Tuesday, this tool will work. And then on Wednesday, you need a different one. And on
I so
Thursday,
agree
you
with
need a
that.
different one.
Yeah.
So a big toolkit. And man, the pets, you know, Scarlett, the 99% good dog, she is a huge part of that. So thanks again for letting me be part of this conversation.
Awesome, Nita. Thank you. Katie, what's yours?
You guys are awesome. And I love these opportunities, because like I got to meet Nita in Columbus, but Marie, I would have never met you had we not done this. So I love doing BraveTV and getting to meet our alum. But yeah, I mean, again, she's going to start barking right now. But yeah, the dogs, you know, mine are not trained. They're not any kind of official thing, though. Marie, I kind of want to look into what you've done, and we'll have Marie post those links when we are
And we can be
when
chatting.
we're live. Yeah, we'll all be talking. But you know, I just think that animals are really beneficial for all of us in different ways. And I was gonna say too that I was telling these guys about it yesterday, but there's this Instagram account that I follow, and it's at Revelatory, or I don't know how to say it, but I'll tag it later.
Yes, we'll tag it.
Yeah, but she posted I love following her, and she posted this one about her dog Scout, which that was my old dog's name. And she talks about how he's growing older and how dogs age faster than humans. And then at the end, she talks about how, you know we're setting ourselves up for this mourning process, that we are going to outlive our animals, but in the end, that it's worth what you get from them and the time that they're here, and the companionship and love that you'll never feel in another way. So I loved that. And I think that's important, because I did kind of feel that way after I had to put Scout down, and I was like, why am I doing this again? And I was like, because I have to.
Yeah.
They make me happy. So
Katie, that story, thank you for sharing. And we will link her account so we can all look her up. And don't worry about the barking. It's okay.
Here she is.
Olive, behave. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of this incredible info about pets and mental health. And we're so grateful to you for spending time with us and for being able to be on the live chat as well. And I think that's all we have for today. I just have to say, next week we're still planning our guests so stay tuned for next week's BraveTV. But I will see you guys a little later for the Brave Chat, and have a great rest of your holiday weekend. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, you guys. This was great.